All right, guys, in today's video, we will be going over Interview with a Vampire, episode 7, season 1, the season finale, guys. Okay, this is going to be part 2. This will contain spoilers, so if you guys are, if you haven't watched the episode yet, or if you just don't want to, hear about any spoilers, I really encourage you to come back, like the video, or subscribe, or whatever, anything that you can do to keep you kind of in the loop of my videos, and then come back and watch it later, because we're going to dive right into it. Again, this is part 1. Let's go. So in the beginning of episode 7, we see the dynamic between Louis Lestat and Claudia through Louis' point of view, and he begins to tell us about how they are just kind of locked into this dynamic of hatred and how they are pretending that they like each other. They pretending, well, they're not pretending that they like each other, but they're kind of like, just kind of like enduring each other at this point. They know that in particular Louis and Claudia more so get along, but Lestat and Claudia do not like each other, and they are pretty much just like tolerating each other. And if you look at the last episode, episode 6, Lestat forces Claudia to stay, so she's not there willingly, and because of that, um, there's anger, there's resentment, there's hatred amongst all of them, I believe, but more so between Lestat and Claudia. And if you look at Louis mindset is very in a very fragile place as well, because he was really, like, literally thinking about walking out in the sun. And so he's in a very fragile state, and he's not happy either. But even though I believe that Lestat is keeping Claudia there, within the family, even though he doesn't like her, it's because he believes that Claudia brings something to Louis that he doesn't. So, but when you love someone, as we know that Louis does love Claudia, it's difficult to try to make them to do something that they don't want to do, that's making them unhappy. And of course, Louis, more than anybody, knows how Lestat is. So he's like, if she doesn't want to stay, I don't want to make her stay. It's probably what's going on through his mind. But, with Lestat there at this point, they have no other choice. He has no other choice but to comply. So really, Louis and Claudia are both trapped by Lestat, and this is the dynamic of the family. This is what's happening right now, is that they're just like there, and um there's hatred, there's resentment, there's just a whole bunch of negative emotions going on. And so as the episode progresses, we kind of see that people in this new age, there's over the years, time has progressed, things have changed. Obviously, there are people who are still there from when Louis and Lestat first kind of came out on the scene together, but there are also people who have died. So there's new people, there's old people, but like, people are starting to realize that they are different. Um and what it's doing is actually bringing people to their doorstep. And the beginning of the episode, we see that uh that there is a man that comes to their doorstep, and Lestat, of course, doesn't like this at all, and he ends up killing the man. But what's very interesting about this scene is that he says right away after this that they should just leave. And it kind of implies, he said, this is the second person, so we can kind of assume that the person that they were killing, um during the first setting of the episode, was another person who came to them that may have been sick, or maybe have been diagnosed. And he also can taste that there's cancer in that person's blood. So whenever a vampire tastes someone, or maybe even just smells their blood, they can tell, what type of disease is in that blood. So, it's very interesting. But right after that, he's like, "We gotta go. We gotta make plans to go." And so Claudia sees this as an opportunity to make the plans. Louis and Claudia both can read each other's mind, and they already have made up in their mind that they are indeed going to kill Lestat. Lestat has again forced them to stay with him, forced them to stay in this dynamic, and they are like, the only way that we can get rid of him without risking our own safety is to kill him, you know. And it's crazy because he said, Lestat said that he had changed in episode, I believe it was episode 6. But none of his behavior has really shown that he has changed, really. So, there's no reason, why they should risk saying, "Hey, Lestat, we're just going to leave, and he's not going to do what he did in episode 5, which was, be very violent." So, yeah. So as the episode progresses, we see that Claudia and Louis are coming up with this plan to kill Assad. Mostly Claudia, though. Really, it's not Claudia and Louis. It's mainly just Claudia. Louis is just kind of like, you know, there as a distraction to Lestat. So Claudia does not reveal her plans to Louis, but Louis wants to know what's going to happen. He's like, "You know what? I want to know." And she's like, "No, I'm not going to tell you. You just you just be the distraction. You make him fall in love with you again. You be the distraction, and I am going to be the master plan." So, and that's what Louis does essentially. Claudia and Louis can read each other's minds, and there's this thing of them being very careful, though, and Claudia is not really communicating with Louis like she used to. So there's a lot of questions surrounding that. But as the episode progresses, we see that um, we see that Louis and Lestat, they have these beautiful and these special moments between each other, and which I think is very, very obviously romantic, but there's a relief that's there because we didn't really get that with them a lot of the times, especially since Claudia stepped into the picture. So it was really nice to see that moment between them. It reminded us is why they kind of like the attraction and the love that they have for each other. But they come up with this idea, and then Claudia's like, "Listen, we're gonna throw a ball," and she throws the idea out there. She's like, "We shouldn't just run away," and she says that use we should use this moment and to have a feast. And she was like, why would we just leave? Why not mock our victims? That's what she said. And it's very, very interesting because we know that Lestat, the way that he sees people is definitely different from the way that Louis sees. So Claudia is pretty much at this point pitching to Lestat, and she's pitching to him, let's do this. Let's let's take these victims, let's take these people, and let's throw a party, and let's leave out with a bang. I don't want to just go. And and Lestat hears her, and over time, as they talk more and more about the ball, Lestat begins to throw in his own ideas. So throughout the episode, we see them really planning this mega leave, this mega move, and they're planning on moving, and the tickets are ready, everything is ready, and they also go and see an old friend, which is Anderson, and they're like, I need to. They kind of pitched to him the party idea, And of course they have to offer him something in return, and he knows that something isn't right with these people. He sees that they still look very young. They haven't aged a day, but he plays into this thing as he seems to be an older guy. He doesn't really care. He plays into these emotions, and he's like, you know, kind of like, what do I get out of this, right? And so they offer him a boat in return. He's doing coffins right now, which of course is perfect for the vampire setting. And they're like, sure, we'll give you a boat. Don't you want a boat? And he knows that they have a lot of money, so he's like, yeah, let's do it. So they begin to make connections through Anderson to throw this Mardi Gras huge ball. So um as the episode progresses, we get towards the middle end of the episode. We see Louis and Lestat having amazing moments, and Louis is obviously back to killing humans now, and so they're all Louis, Lestat, and Claudia are all feeling very, very hungry because the what Lestat proposed was them not to eat for 3 days before the ball. So they're very, very hungry. They're leaving out with a bang. But we also see Louis and Lestat talking on a balcony, and to me, this moment was very, very very, very emotional. I have to give props to Sam and Jacob who play Louis and Lestat, but it's just the whole entire scene really. It was so many emotions in one. It wasn't just like, oh, he's feeling sad, or oh, this person is feeling this way and this person is feeling that way, but it was like a whole burst of emotion. So you can see a little bit of resentment, a little bit of heartbreak, a little bit of sadness, a little bit of love. And that's not easy. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys right now, that's not easy to convey in one scene, in one setting. So the fact that they were able to do that, by the writing, by the acting, by the emotions, amazing. But what's interesting about this is that the acting is done in such a way that even though Lestat doesn't say it, we know that Lestat knows that they are planning to kill him. And he says these words, desperately fragile, desperately, alive. And that was very interesting because that is a perfect sum, I think, to Louis, because Louis is still battling depression. But not only Louis, but I also think to Lestat as well, because even though he appears to be this strong person, confident, he is battling a lot. And, you know, that scene, if you have not seen it, I do encourage you to just look at that scene again. This is when Louis and Lestat was on the balcony. And it's just very heartfelt. It's very amazing, and you could see the layers in the parallels between both of them, not just one of them. But basically, Lestat is letting us know that he knows that um, Louis and Claudia are planning to kill him, and Lestat, he asks Louis for a dance, and he's like, can we dance before before the feast? And he also says that I'm going to miss this place. And there's another parallel, because if you guys go back into the episodes, you will see that whenever Lestat is referring to a place, he's really referring to Louis. And it's very interesting because if you look back, there's this episode where Lestat is like, he was talking to Antoinette, and he's like, there's no other place for me other than New Orleans, but he wasn't really talking about the physical place. He was talking about, Louis. And so he says, I'm going to miss this place. So that means that I think he's saying that, and you can look at different metaphors, because Lestat also has a plan of his own, even though he knows that Louis and Claudia are planning to kill him. Um, So you can look at it in different ways. You can look at him saying, hey, I'm going to miss this place, meaning I'm going to miss our relationship as it is right now, because I know that once you guys try to kill me, that's going to change. Or you could be looking at like, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss Louis. I'm going to miss us being together. So there's a lot of different ways that you can see what he's saying, but in the end, as we progress throughout the episode and we see them doing this beautiful dance in the ball, and everyone is looking at them, and it's like, these are two men together, and people are like, what, this is, they don't like it, and everyone is just staring, and they're just like, they didn't care. And then Louis begins to describe to us that he's actually falling back, in love with Lestat, and he could feel himself just falling in there. So there's a lot of different dynamics and emotions that they are giving to the viewer. So this is part one of the season finale. I will be back with part two, and I'm really excited. Thank you guys for listening and watching. Hope you have a good day.